Denver Broncos Mile High View, no commercials, no bullshit. Colby, I put out a video. I wanted to go back in time, and I think that it's in today's day and age, it's important that we listen to different voices. I think more than now than ever. Um, you could hear the wash, rinse, repeat voices, but sometimes you got to step back and say, wait a minute, let's think about this from a different angle. I think censorship, the reason not to have it should become more apparent now more than ever. You turn on corporate controlled media sources, it's fear, death, fear, death, fear, death. But if people could shut that off and actually do some, research at the library, I'm just talking about, research, just kind of just say, wait a minute, before I get scared, let me look at some facts. Instead of letting somebody tell me to be scared, let me just get my facts straight, and but beyond the wash, rinse, repeat factoids, and then all of a sudden things start to unravel for those people. Because let's face it, that corporate mouthpiece out there keeps being wrong, and that's what I'm saying. Why would you trust sources that continually have to backtrack and continually have to reinvent their narrative and who's wrong, and never, when they're wrong, admit, oh man, we were wrong at, maybe we should rethink this. And then those that say, yeah, we were wrong, and admit to it and own up to it. But these sources, like in STR's case, they've been wrong multiple times. They never own up to it. They just keep dragging people along. And you'd think they'd become wise to it. So this is probably, in my opinion, like one of the most unimportant, how can I put it? Probably uninteresting, the most uninteresting game of all times. This is most likely Fangio's last game as a Denver Bronco coach. So get used to hoping that you find a coach, a defensive coach, even remotely as close as this guy. And do you have any indication that Shermer's going to go out the door too?
I have no indication whatsoever.
They sure don't want to talk about that, do they?
No.
Yeah, and then you said even online platforms were promoting Shermer, the idea.
Yes.
Which I don't even know how you could look yourself in the mirror and say something like that. But again, if that's where you want to get your sources from, your trusted Bronco information from, good, by all means, and gobble it up. Yeah, but Shermer, gulp, 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 Shermer, gulp, gulp. So the jury's still out as to whether or not he's going to be around. But I would say the way they're acting is that it's not like, he could take Shermer with him and all this. It's like mum's the word on Shermer.
I agree.
So the reason I brought that video up was because of that fact of the origins of Shermer. We got to remember Peyton wasn't even around when Elway brought him on board. This was Elway's problem to fix because he screwed up the Gary Kubiak situation. And I had to write to a commenter that it wasn't Fangio. And I thought, because I said, did Fangio fire Gary Kubiak? Gary Kubiak basically walked. And but the hiring was strictly on Elway, according to Kubiak. He said the Broncos didn't want my people. And again, what that equals meddling by none other than John Elway. And they had a scramble to get Rich Scangarello. And that's why I think the whole Fangio thing blew up from the beginning. Fangio already signed a 3-year contract, so he was on the hook. Or 4-year contract, excuse me, on the hook for at least 3 of those years. And but also what I want to say is if they keep Shermer, there's no way I believe that Elway thinks he's not going to be around. He's just stepping. I'm going to believe that there's going to be no. I believe that he thinks that he's going to be around in this new ownership turnover, whatever that is. That he's going to be a part of it somehow, and he wants to keep doing what's been going on since at the end of 2016. You talk about wash, rinse, repeat. I mean, what we're seeing is just, it's all like Groundhog's Day all over again. This Kansas City game is not interesting as a Bronco fan by any stretch. What's going to be interesting is what happens after the game. Days, weeks, a month or whatever. That's what's going to be interesting. Go ahead.
I just want to address the situation about everybody thinking I'm obsessed with John Elway, and I want to address that situation right here, right now, because I think that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
When it comes to John Elway, I believe that he's brought a cancer in this organization, and for you to say that I'm obsessed with John Elway, I believe that you're obsessed with STR, and I believe that's where you're getting your information, because you refuse to do the research by which who hired Fangio, by which who hired Pat Shurmur, by which who hired all these coaches before everybody started blaming Fangio for all these hires, like AKA Pat Shurmur, which we all know that Fangio wasn't tossing and turning at night, wishing that he had the Kansas City offense and bringing Shurmur from a dreadful Giants experience, a dreadful Browns experience, and quite frankly, a dreadful Philadelphia experience. You go to all the message boards over there on other teams, they realize who the big problem is in this organization, and that is John Elway. So I just wanted to address that. But going to what you said with Fangio, Kubiak, and this whole blow up from the start, I completely agree with you. I don't think that Fangio really cared what was going on in the offense, because I believe he was told by Elway that him and Kubiak will be running that offense. And what did Elway do? He does what he does, quite frankly, all the time. He everything blows up in his face. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that time and time again, not with just coaches, but with this organization. And I want to address something here too as well. You can draft offense and defensive linemen all you want, but until you have an identity on both sides of the ball, those players that you draft, some of them aren't going to fit your coach's system, your culture's system, and so on and so forth. And those players that you draft, you have to develop them. Who have we developed over the years? Oh, you're going to say Justin Simmons, and you're going to say Garrett Bowles, and you're going to say these players that didn't deserve these contracts?
I'm going to let you go. The reason why there's no development is the fact that we keep changing coaches all the time. Go ahead.
No, and I also think that there's no culture set in place, mm-hmm. and a foundation set in that organization. And to say that that this is old news, are you kidding me? This isn't old news. I mean, I don't know what you're smoking. I don't know what you're listening to. But to say that this is old news is the same thing that I hear from all other STR fans that call into those other shows and don't even bring it up. Okay, I like bringing up the hardcore issues that no one else on the other online platforms and STR talks about, and that's ownership. This Kaiser situation is still going on behind the scenes, and STR is doing everything possible not to bring and mention that at all. So don't come here and say that it's old news. It's not old news.
Yeah, now I need to say something. I want to go back to what we were saying in the beginning and what folded into what you're talking about. We need other voices out here because
yes,
STR, and just because STR and online platforms, just because STR wants to not talk about Elway, and online platforms want to actually tell you because they think you're an idiot. I'm telling you, they think you're an idiot. They're going to tell you he doesn't exist. Because they're doing that doesn't mean we're not going to talk about him, because this is extremely relevant. He gave himself a promotion. He promoted himself on top of the king of the hill at Dove Valley. And to not talk about him is doing the Bronco fans an injustice, in my opinion. He has to be talked about. Like I said, because they're not talking about it doesn't mean that he doesn't exist. He very much does exist. And if they keep Shermer, I can guarantee you that it has Elway's fingerprints all over it, not Peyton's. They'll wave Peyton in front of you because that was the whole idea from the beginning. As one thing blew up in John Elway's face after another, and I think especially after the debacle with Kubiak and having to scramble to get Scangarello, and then the bad draft picks and free agency acquisitions, he knew he had to hide behind an onion layer and another onion layer, just like he did to some degree with Vance Joseph. That was kind of what started the whole onion layer thing. And again, I think that was the reason why Kubiak didn't want to be around. So because they don't talk about it, it's very important we hear other voices. If you don't want to hear those voices, that's fine. But then don't scratch your collective heads wondering, why are we just perpetually going through the same thing? We supposedly have all this talent and everything, but nothing seems to mesh. If you don't want to look at, like what Colby said, the culture, development, sticking to a system, and instead of bouncing all over the place. Yeah. So I agree with you, and I just need to point out that that's why we have a channel here, because these are the things that needed to be discussed, and I think they'll manifest themselves down the road. I think that oh my God, Elway's still somehow in the thing. Shocker, or he's going to try to.
Yeah, but that's like, wow, we have to wait till it manifests. Like, I'd rather just, attack the situation now and get rid of it before it gets worse and worse and worse. And me and you have said time and time again that it's going to get worse and worse and worse before it gets better. Just like what's happening in the world today. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And I believe that's what's going to happen into this organization. And it blows my mind that everybody forgets to talk about Elway, because everything that we talk about in terms of a organizational standpoint and on the field product, everything comes back and revolves around Elway. And to say that Elway doesn't exist, he didn't promote himself, like that's the type of stuff you're listening to. And then you finally have to admit, when you see him coming out in front of George Payton at the Giants game, and then you start seeing him every other week since the Giants game, that, he does exist and he is the director of player personnel. Like this, like, people are just so mind numb to the fact that John Elway is still in this organization, and they just don't want to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about it because I'm tired of the same thing that we've seen over the past 6 to 7 years with this turnstile of coaches, turnstile of good talent that we let go and that they go on and have better success, a.k.a. Philip Lindsay, a.k.a. Chris Harris Jr. The list goes on and on. So I agree with you.
So, well, what was it? Mass psychosis formation was the word that came out. And we've pretty much kind of been pounding the table trying to get people to understand that. You have to sometimes, just because the corporations that, are connected to Dove Valley don't, and the paid for, don't want to talk about something, doesn't mean that something doesn't exist, because they simply don't want to talk about it. So I think that we probably resonate with people that can understand that, but people that can't, they're looking at that through that myopic tunnel of STR. Don't look over there. Don't look over there. Just, you'll never.
And that's the same with certain players, like a Justin Simmons, a Garrett Bowles, a Shelby Harrison, a Draymond Jones, just name a few, especially a Justin Simmons. I mean, he's your spokesperson now because you had to get rid of Von Miller. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, everybody thinks that he's a good safety. And I'm like, on Madden 22 he is, but if you look at the game film, he stinks. He's not a top 5 safety, nor is he a top 10 safety, in my opinion. He's a bottom 3rd safety in the league, in my opinion, a starting safety. He is a bottom 3rd starting safety. I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Every time I watch Justin Simmons on tape, especially last week, and the weeks prior, because you provided the film and I watched it too, this guy everybody attacks him, and they don't watch our videos. I mean, these coaches know what to do here. And then on top of that, their game plan is always to attack Justin Simmons' side of the field wherever he's at. If he's on Ronald Darby's side or Patrick Surtain's side of the field. It's always attack Justin Simmons because I sit there and I'm like, man, he looks like he's not trying. And then you're telling me, no, he's trying. He just stinks at his job.
He stinks. Yeah.
And then how I have to ask myself, how did he earn a 4-year, $61 million contract? What did he do to earn that contract? And that's another thing. We shell out money to players that have never earned that contract. And that's the type of culture I'm talking about. You're setting a precedent inside that organization that you half-assing when it comes to practice, when it comes to workouts, when it comes to film study, and also you being a half-ass player that isn't very good at his position. Yeah, you're going to get that big contract, a.k.a. Shelby Harris, Garrett Bowles, and Justin Simmons.
Well, and you could keep going to Juwan James, Menelik Watson. Just goes on and on. Gordon, So believe me, you see that, it's not Peyton. I mean, it even predates Peyton. So, but I was just going to say, we were patting ourselves. A couple videos ago, we were giving ourselves a pat on the back about everything we got right. And I forgot to mention, who was it that said Von Miller was going to go to the Rams before he actually went to the Rams? Oh, yeah. I wonder why that is.
They have the push up the middle that you're looking for.
Yeah, well, yes. I said that Von Miller works great when you got that push up the middle. I haven't been keeping up with the Rams and what they're doing, but that was the idea anyway.
Yeah.
That was the idea. So again, I'm just saying that when what you have to look at, now even in the real world, you got, like, for instance, you got the Dr. Death himself, Fauci, flip-flopping all over the place, having to backtrack and never apologize for it. Well, I told you this, but this happened. Told you that, but that happened. It's the same thing with these other outfits. They get it wrong. Like, when Schlereth was going on about Aaron Rodgers coming here, this man said, this is total bullshit. Did anybody say, well, we got, we're so sorry with it, we got it wrong? They were STR 104.3. They were shaming their own audience when their own audience called them out on that, instead of saying, no, you're right, that they're right, but we've owned up to, like, for instance, Williams. For instance, that's just an example. There isn't very many that we have wrong. We got him wrong, and we admitted we got him wrong. And we ate crow. We ate crow on it. But online platforms saying that we didn't, saying bombs away, Shermer's coming, bombs away, and then Matthew Stafford's a shoe-in. They ever apologize to their audience? Did they ever say, man, we just, sorry, we were so totally wrong with that? No, they just keep on lying to their audience. So, like I said, in this world, where are you getting your information from? And I'm not saying believe us, but at least listen to other voices. At least, you got some hope, I think, if you can weigh out, well, who's got the track record? Who keeps getting it wrong all the time, no matter what it is, us or whatever, and quit trying to invent, play mental gymnastics why who you're listening to got it wrong. They got it wrong.
I agree with you 100%. Like, me and you don't get paid for this, and we're freely doing this, providing you guys information that you guys can take with you and do your own research on. How I started doing this is, he provided me research. I was like, hey, this guy actually makes a lot of sense. And then I went and did my own research. He was the man providing the information to go and look. Go ahead.
Tell him before you got to that point. Tell him.
I was like these fans in the comment sections. Oh, Elway, Elway's he's a god. He is a GM of all wonder and joy. But then, I came, and once he started his channel, I collected all the information that he was putting out, and I'm like, hey, you know what, this guy, few videos in, I was like, hey, this guy is actually making a lot of sense, and everything that STR saying isn't. So I went and did my own research, and I started, asking, hey, can I, do this with you? And I'm happy to do it with you because I want to have free information out there that's the truth. And on top of that, everybody likes to talk about, what you just said. All those, Aaron Rodgers, we weren't wrong on him. He went golfing with John Elway and all that bullshit. And I'm like, okay, he can go golfing with John Elway all he wants, but that has to come down to a Packer and Bronco organizational trade. That's not Aaron Rodgers and the Denver Broncos. That's the Green Bay Packers and the Denver Broncos. Okay, like people just didn't get that.
They didn't get it. But you're being too nice. You hated me. I hate this guy. He's saying stuff that it doesn't seem to compute.
Well, hate is a strong word.
Oh, strongly disagreed.
Yes, strongly disagree.
Yeah, but I want to say one thing too. While 104.3 was, particularly with Cecil Lammey, who was shaming the audience for calling their whole platform out. But hold on a second.
Just an FYI, sorry to interrupt you. He is a Steeler fan, so just want to put that out there. Just saying, that's who you're getting your information from, as a Steeler fan.
Yeah.
Getting paid to do Denver Bronco bullshit to you and lie to you. Just saying.
And they were saying, well, and then they were saying, because we're Chiefs fans. But speaking of the Chiefs, but what I wanted to get at is that while Cecil Lammey was shaming the audience for calling them out, which they had every right to do, and they instead of saying, you do have every right to call us out, he was shaming them for calling them out on the Aaron Rodgers thing. But what I find very interesting is, while they're shaming their own audience, Aaron Rodgers actually came out and got into Schlereth's face and told him that, I'll let you know. He said, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but you'll be the first to know. And they whitewash that too. He jokingly said, no. Aaron Rodgers was definitely not happy. And then you had Wilson come out. He was so frustrated with this mass psychosis formation with the Denver Broncos. It spilled into his world, and it's just like, can you knock this off? I am not on your list. Quote, I am not on your list. Just like Stafford said, I am not on your list. Just like Brady said, I am not on your list. So that what we're trying to say is, it's not about bashing the Broncos. It's about finding an identity, finding some way out of this. What the whole rest of the NFL sees. Some Fox idiot writes up okay, John Elway, what do you, okay, here, pay me, just like John Clayton, right? John Clayton was on, as it turned out, was on the payroll of the Denver Broncos while he was writing all this stuff. All this PR that comes out of Dove Valley.
And Mile High Huddle.
Yes, this nonsense coming out of these places. The reality is, everybody around the league knows about Shermer, knows about the Broncos, knows about Elway. I was just talking to a Cleveland Brown fan, of all things. We were talking about if we could get Elway out of here, and he was like, I don't know about that. And they totally get it. No matter what team they get where Elway is being and how he can be ignored is beyond their comprehension. It's because they don't understand, because they don't listen to STR.
Yeah,
the effect on the media, that because it's just easy to go click on these guys. Oh, yeah. It's easy to do that. It's hard to turn it off and set your sights on what somebody else is saying, to look into it. That's all we're saying. We don't even say believe us, just at least look into what we're saying.
Well,
Elway does exist. It's a fact. He sits at the top of the mountain. And to say that he has nothing to do with what's going on out on the field is you're fooling yourself.
It's blasphemy. You just to go off of your point, I have a coworker who's a Vikings fan, and he sees that Elway's a cancer.
Oh yeah, everybody does.
Exactly, and see that is what I'm trying to instill to the audience that doesn't get it, because the audience that does get it, congrats, I commend you for that. But the people that don't get it, and it'll be easy for people like that to tune it out. I don't agree, because I think they're so short-minded, and they're just, oh man, Elway, we can't lose you. You're a great player for us, and for sure he was a great player for us. But as a GM and as an executive and a slash head coach, he's failed at his job. And at any other spot in the National Football League that had proper ownership, that had proper stability in their organization, he would have been fired 3-4 years ago. John Elway would have been. For any other organization in terms of ownership. And I talk about ownership in a bigger aspect here, because ownership is the most important key to success in the National Football League in terms of stability inside an organization that has a culture and an identity. I've been watching this thing on Tom Brady. I just want to put this out there. They have this ESPN Plus about Brady. Okay, all the glamour that everybody gives Brady. What has led to the Patriots being so successful over the years? Number one, ownership. Number two, a head coach that gets it, an organization that gets it in terms of building offense and defensive line. They have an identity. Why do you think they've been into like 6 to 7 Super Bowls in the past decade and a half? Is because they understand the fundamental aspects of an organization and a culture that will have success over time in terms of building lines that are very important, not getting these PR players like a Adam Pac-Man Jones, a James, a Menelik Watson, Donald Stevenson, just to name a few players. And they don't have a meddling owner like Elway is.
Playing the owner role. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not even an owner. He's playing a role.
And people like to give Brady this. Yeah, Brady has developed over time, but in terms of in his early career, I watched that offensive line. And every time, and Brady praises that offensive line. He praises the coaching that he got. He praises the stability inside that organization that helped him be successful. So you want to talk about quarterbacks all day, that's fine. You want to talk about all these glamorous players that you want to get, that's fine. But you are not going to be a respectable organization and a respectable football team until you get proper ownership. You turn off the PR. You get some of those PR people out of Denver, like a Cecil Lammey. The list goes on and on.
John Clayton.
Yeah, and you stop with the meddling, hands-on bullshit that we've seen over the past 6 to 7 years. Then you will see things grow. It's going to take time. And I think people nowadays are so impatient. They want results now. But with this case with the Denver Broncos, this is going to take time. I mean, you don't have a great offense and defensive line. You don't have a great organization that everybody likes to talk about. You're a bottom third organization in the National Football League. That is just where you're at right now, because John Elway and the trust couldn't get their shit together, and they just said, "Oh, Goodell, yeah, we're fine.
Just they said was give the Broncos up until Elway's contract is finished. They wanted ownership before. They wanted it at least 2 years ago.
Yep.
They said, "Go, it's John Elway. Give him this chance." By the way, Patriot fans, if Kraft dies in a crash and he can't, do not let Tom Brady run your team. I'm just telling you right there.
Yes.
I'll let you get back into this in a second, but if you were talking about Brady and the Patriots, but if any respectable analysis of the Brady, they will talk about the Patriots right before Tom Brady even got there, how all this stuff was put into place. What you have with the Denver Broncos is it's like a bagel. It's just this circle, but with a complete empty hole. With this just a void, a vacuum right in the middle. Nothing.
It's a bubble. Like you've
a bubble. Yeah, it's a bubble with no substance in the middle of this bubble. None whatsoever. And I'm just going to say this: This is obviously one of the most uninteresting games, I think, in God knows
Yeah.
how long, maybe since the AFL days in the 60s. Um, what what's going to happen is if Shermer is retained, I'm telling you right now, and this is why I brought up last week, if Shermer is retained, we know that the mindset, this is all coming from John Elway. It's all coming from the top. It's not, it has nothing to do with Peyton. Peyton's going along. The mindset is they're going to try to somehow get Elway in some sort of an ownership, because if Peyton is, if I'm sorry, if Shermer's still around, they're going to try to go after a defensive-minded coach, guaranteed. They will go after a defensive-minded coach, because what I'm saying is this is exactly what was going on after the Vance Joseph. The same thinking at the top. This isn't Peyton. This is exact same mentality that was post Vance Joseph. That we'll get somebody to run the offense, Pat Shermer. We already got him. It's our guy. It's my guy, Elway, my guy. It's not Fangio's guy. It would just, But let me ask you this. I want to ask you this, Colby.
Okay.
Would Quinn in his right mind? Let's just take Quinn. After seeing what happened with Fangio, Quinn understands Fangio. He totally gets it. Does Quinn want to be put in this situation where he's the defensive coordinator / figurehead head coach, while this bumbling this bumbling Elway up there is ultimately calling shots? Everybody knows what's going on here. Everybody does, except for the people that listen to Sports Talk Radio. Everybody knows.
Okay.
Who the hell would? Well, I can't even see why. If I was in Dallas, I'd just stick with that gig. I wouldn't want to subject myself. I guess like maybe the money's good. I mean, maybe the money's just too much.
I'm going to use your point. I'm going to use your point. What if he's duped to come here like Fangio was?
How can you be duped? I mean, we're making the point that.
I mean, we said that same thing about Fangio. I mean, I'm using your logic here in terms of what you said about Fangio, and I'm applying that to Dan Quinn. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that at all. On terms of, I'm just using your same logic.
I understand, but what would the dupe be? The dupe would have to be? Elway's going to be gone. That would have to be the dupe.
I don't think so. I think because
they know Elway's up there meddling. Everybody knows that.
Obviously, but what did
how could you possibly pull the wool over anybody's eye?
How did they do Fangio to come here?
Well, that's what I addressed last week. Gary Kubiak was the plan. It was always the plan to bring Gary Kubiak in. Fangio, don't worry about it. Got it under control. Now you have to. I guess if you do the same thing.
Okay, what if they bring?
You'll have to be under the God spell, under some sort of hypnotism that Shermer is somehow going to be the mastermind. That you're the head coach going to take the brunt of his fuck ups. I'm just saying you have to come up with a dupe. You have a plausible dupe.
I can come up with a dupe right now. I think that he could promise, and hold on, he could promise Dan Quinn that you can get the players that you want, and then we'll fire Shermer, and we'll bring in your co-offense coordinator that's in Dallas, Kellen Moore, and we'll bring a package in. Both of you can come to Denver, and Kellen Moore is another Shermer. I mean, come on now. We saw it. We've seen it over the past few weeks. I believe he's another Shermer, but he's a young coach, up-and-coming coach. That's what STR and Dove Valley will use. He's a young, up-and-coming coach that can replace Dan Quinn when he's gone. So another yes man, another turnstile. Oh, bring your co-buddy Kellen Moore with you. We'll just fire Shermer, and he's a young up and coming. That's what STR always said. That's how I believe he'll be duped to come here.
Yeah, hang on a second. I got to answer a question. What's the question? No, I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm in trouble again, of course. So just to reiterate your point. Something like that is more plausible, I think, than a Quinn. I don't even think Quinn. I think he's in a situation. He's already done he doesn't need to get himself out there as a head coach. Not under this circumstance. But I think, like you're saying, somebody that, hey, and this is what is, I think this is going to really expose the Broncos. I think what they'll end up with is somebody who's desperate to get out there in any way they can and just get some kind of, hey, look, I head coach. I know it's the Broncos, but I can be forgiven for any sins I may be accused of. Maybe somebody like you said, you get them, bring them out of whatever. Yes, I can come back in.
Jeff,
What's that?
Jeff Fisher.
yeah, Ted Lasso. So what I'm saying is that that's going to define, I think, what's really going on here. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't believe that they're going to fire Shermer. Why didn't you just fire him from the get-go? Yeah,
Because
I would.
they get a clone S player. They can get a clone S coach in Shermer, but he's young and he's up and coming. I'm just talking about what STR and Dove Valley and John Elway would try to put out there in terms of bullshit spin. And they would say, oh, we have all this young talent on offense that they've been saying for 2.5 years. 2 years.
Well, no, they'll definitely. That's what they're. Yeah.
Well, you pair him with a young up and coming offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. He's just another Shermer. And then on top of that, Dan Quinn just handle the defense. Me and Kellen Moore. He's my understudy.
Yeah. We'll I just think that they've played that card too much, and I think that
I wouldn't be shocked if Elway would go back to that again.
I think everything, in my opinion, everything hinges around whether Shermer's kept or not. To me,
that's a Peyton move.
Yeah, he's not.
If he's not kept, that's a Peyton move. And please, Peyton, just fire Shermer. Like, I just don't like Shermer.
Well, can he fire him if Elway says no?
If
Elway says no.
Shermer, okay, let's hypothetically speak here. If they fire Shermer and the stuff comes out, okay, if they fire Shermer and who the next offense coordinator is going to be telling more than, they fired Shermer, it's not Elway. No, it's who they're going to put in place after Shermer that's going to be more telling than just firing Shermer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it'd be if they fired Shermer, they get a head coach who supposedly is bringing in. But if Shermer's there, I'm just saying Shermer is a sticky point in my opinion.
I think Shermer's the whole key. I think Shermer's the key in this whole situation right now.
Yes, absolutely. He's the entire key. But
and like I said, this game isn't interesting today. Like, I mean, they're probably gonna put 50 burger on us because I'm not even caring about this game. I haven't cared about this game since we played the Eagles in 2016. Well, 2017, my apologies.
Putting 50 on the Broncos, just basically playing. I think the game plan for the Kansas City Chiefs is to really just play base football.
I think the game plan is score early and rest their players.
Yeah, I think
because they're pissed. They're pissed that they lost to the Bengals and lost to the 1 seed, so they're trying to get that get some good playoff seeding.
Momentum.
So they're playoff seeding, and they're going to come in and be like, oh, we've owned you guys for the past since 2015. Oh yeah, we could score early, and at halftime we can just sit our players and we can still play. And then I believe after that it's going to be boring based football from the Chiefs.
So
I think happen.
Let's put this hypothetical situation. If the Chiefs were to lose, are they set either way in the seeding?
Yes, they're set either way.
So it doesn't even matter if they lose.
But I think they're trying. But in terms of they're trying to get better seeding to have a better situation going into the playoffs.
Well, what I'm saying is, if they lose, do they keep the seed they currently have?
I'd have to look into that. I don't know.
So there's no guarantee if they lose, they're going to keep their seed.
There's no guarantee. So they're going to come in pissed off and ready to play, and we're just going to go through the motions.
Yeah. Well, you have a coaching staff here that knows they're going to be gone. They have to know they're going to be gone.
I bet Fangio's all happy this is his last game.
Okay, I would be too. Yeah, if I was him.
I might see
far away from the cancers I possibly could get away from.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. Will the defense give him one last
hurrah?
One last hurrah. Yeah.
I think that was a few weeks ago, in my opinion. I think.
And you think with the offense, do you think this is going to be bombs away? You know, we got with
Yeah.
Drew.
Yeah.
We're gonna show you we're gonna show our next defensive coordinator the Shermer system.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up a great point, because what have we seen over the past 2 weeks? Everybody's keen on that running game now. Javonte and Melvin Gordon haven't been able to do stuff. Our offensive line has been dreadful in terms of run pro and pass pro. And we've seen it over the past 2 weeks that everybody's keen in on Javonte and Gordon, because that's all we can do on offense if Shermer plays it correctly, because we all know he doesn't. And we're going to see a lot of bombs away. We're going to see a lot of bombs away. Lock. I mean, you know, in Mile High Huddle, we never said we go 20 plus yards. It's just, it's
We
ridiculous.
never said a lot of things we said.
I agree. But this is gonna be. I'm telling you, this could turn ugly quicker than you think it will. I really do believe that. And Fangio and this defense, I mean, seriously, I mean, he doesn't have any players to work with on that defense. I mean, the players that he does have, they'll be gone in free agency, like Kaiser, like Harris. Nah, don't forget, and Kenny Young. Forget about those players.
That's what it's going to be interesting too, is to see the turnover that happens after this.
I agree.
Very, very interesting and very telling.
I just want to say this: Greg Robinson, defense coordinator, died. I just want to put my say my stuff to him.
They're all dying. Everybody. Yep. Yeah, we got a hell of a death count this year, all from right across the board. I was just telling you, there was an insurance company. They had they were Skyping among. It was the owner, CEO of an insurance company. They were Skyping with other CEOs of insurance companies. He said a 40+ increase in all mortality, not COVID, all mortality, unprecedented ever in history. And they got people that actually keep the statistics on death. Fact, you know.
And ladies and gentlemen, you love that shot. You love it now because you're starting to see your loved ones dying right in front of your face.
Well, it's not just that; it's also the quarantining, the masking, the lockdown thing, all this.
Yeah, you're not getting
the economy, everything. You add it all up. Suicides.
Yep. You're not getting the proper sunlight that you want to. You're not getting your vitamins that are very essential to your bodies, the minerals that are very essential to your bodies. You're breathing in your own CO2, which will F up your brain.
And your immune system too. The also the deaths in hospitals is like gone, just exploded through the roof. So it's a good place to go if you want to die.
Doesn't surprise me. The shots will kill you eventually. Probably not now, but 3, 4, 5 years.
Well, some will right off the bat, but some, it's just swollen hearts. Yeah, people dropping. Yeah, all of it.
All that crap. Yep.
Bad policies, drugs.
And those are the people, not everyone, but those are the people that you listen to, just like here in Denver when you listen to STR, Mile High Huddle, Cody Rourke, all these channels out there that feed you bullshit.
Well, I worked in media, and believe me, I shut it off a long time ago. And I told you I can gauge what the news cycle is by when I go to the grocery store, you know.
And I can also gauge how smarter I am when I'm not watching that bullshit.
Well, yeah, I just do my own research, and I actually follow the science.
We can ask people to do research all they want, but it's up to them to do that research. And I believe in today's culture, everybody's lazy now. So.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that Steppenwolf song. Steppenwolf is a band from the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and they had a song called Monster, and it was about America, just what it was and what it turns into, and that the people got fat and grew lazy. You know,
yeah, everybody's zombies.
Got lazy.
Everybody is zombies now. You know,
believe. Well, I wouldn't say everybody.
Okay. Well, there's a majority out there. A majority of people out there are zombies. I'm sorry.
I'd say more about half. I'll go a little bit more optimistic than you. I'd say about half. It's about a half zombie culture. About a half, because I count the people even on the fence. I think maybe they have a chance. So,
and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, we're watching it in real time right now.
Yep, absolutely. Just the desecration of this organization that John Elway's, my obsession with John Elway's through the roof. Yeah, totally.
Well, and I just want to say that just because we talk about it doesn't mean we're obsessed about it. I guess you could say then who you're listening to is obsessed with not talking about him, obsessed in telling you he doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
That's their obsession. Okay, that's their obsession. And because they're obsessed not saying anything doesn't mean John Elway actually doesn't exist. He does exist. So, and he's at the very top. So, as far as we're concerned, he has to be not only talked about, but he has to be a focal point because he's at the top of the pyramid.
And that's why you made this channel, right? That's your whole focal point
Yeah,
is.
my first video was about culture, change in culture, and to get away from the John Elway, what he's done to sabotage not willfully, but even indirectly sabotage the culture with what he thinks is right. So hopefully like I said, it is going to be an interesting off season.
Oh,
Boy,
it's gonna be interesting next 48 hours because we're gonna figure out what's gonna happen here. I mean, right after the Chiefs game, we're gonna see report after report. Coaches being fired. Stuff like that. So it's gonna be starting here in the next 24 to 48 hours. So let's go. I'm ready.
yeah, and that's where we are. Not really this game.
No, no.
No.
I mean, that's why I'm not talking about this game that much because I know we're going to get our butts kicked. I mean, seriously, the Chiefs defense, ever since they put Chris Jones in the middle, that
That
defense has been
changed everything. It
yeah,
just
changed
that's actually an interesting point we should talk about
yeah.
because we've been preaching that gospel, and it's just any wonder. I mean, they should have fired their defensive coordinator, whoever came up with this idea to make him a wing guy or whatever they tried to do.
4-3. Yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah. You put him. You need to push up the middle. You cannot get away from that. That is like biblical. It's written in stone. You can't you can't reinvent that. You can't. And
Well,
when you have it, wait a second. When you actually have that push up the middle, you have something that a lot of teams just don't have, and everything just wheels around it.
yeah, and didn't we talk about that this offseason in terms of bringing in guys like Solomon Thomas, Sheldon Rankins, Jordan Phillips that this man has been wanting for 2 years now. That proper push up the middle that Chris Jones provided to put him in a 5 tech was just absurd. Putting him back in a 3 tech and a 4-3, perfect. That's helped everybody around him. And I've said this. I think Draymond Jones would be an okay player in a 4-3 defense as a 5 tech player. And a 5 tech player is what Chris Jones was playing early in the season, that proper edge player in a 4-3. So with the hand in the dirt. And I believe Draymond Jones would do okay in that spot, but he's not good in a 3-4 defense
He's
player.
not an interior guy anyway.
No, he's not. No, not in a 3 tech. He's more of a 5 tech player.
Yeah. Well, I think that moving Jones over really proved our point once again. Again, who's right and who's even talking about this stuff too? Yeah, and who's even talking about this stuff?
No,
So
the film that they have, right? The film that they never show to their audience.
yeah, yeah. We just seen the film and just try. I've tried not to get like that too. I've been like that. Just for the fact that I couldn't get the time to do it.
Well,
But
we don't.
I did show a good chunk of film though this season. I
Well,
did.
yeah, you don't get paid for this. We have personal lives here outside this, so it's understandable.
But we did provide film though. We did do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll see about providing some also
we.
in this off season too.
Oh yeah, and I'm going to continue to expose Justin Simmons for the player he is because he's not. He
Well,
can't. He's just he
other
can't.
team other teams are doing that for you. So
Well, just saying. Can't wait to get a proper owner so we can get rid of him and these
yeah,
other. So
yeah. I think there's going to be some house cleaning all across the board, coaching and everything else. So, all right. So let's watch, enjoy the game. Like I said, my take is the Kansas City is going to play base football, in my opinion. Maybe they'll start out like doing a sprint in the beginning, but in the long haul, I think it's going to just to kind of make sure their players aren't getting too exposed, getting hit and stuff. I think it'll just be some base football.
I actually have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. What if they keep Shermer and Fangio hypothetically speaking, what if they keep Shermer and Fangio, in your opinion?
Well, be honest with you, I'll give Elway credit for that. And it may say that he's out the door. He's truly out the door. That's what that tells me, and that he's going to let an owner try to figure out what he wants to or she wants to do. To me, that would be the thing to do, is just say, let the owner figure it out. You want to keep him? We'll give you that chance. You want to get him, But again, this is what's been brought up, is the timeline. If
I
could they in fact do bring in an owner and then do a coach search?
That's interesting to me, because I wanted to bring that question up to you because I don't think me and you've talked about that enough, in terms of if they keep Shermer and Fangio, if they fire Shermer and keep Fangio, and bring in somebody that can develop these young players that fit a correct system, maybe not.
That would make more sense to me, but
man, if they keep Fangio, I believe that's more Peyton than Elway, in my opinion. I think Peyton loves Fangio. I don't think it's set in stone that Fangio's going to get fired, but I think that it's 50-50 right now. I think Peyton and his people want to keep Fangio, and I think Elway and his people don't want to keep Fangio. I think it's 50-50 split right now. I'll have a lot more to gauge after this game than what I'm saying, because I believe that there's a disconnect, and that's what happens if you don't have an owner.
Well, I have to disagree with part of your analysis. You got to remember, Elway. I understand STR gets their talking points, and but deep down, Fangio was an Elway pick. He ultimately was an Elway pick.
I agree,
and that could have well, these are all hypotheticals anyway. I think me and you have. I think he's going to be gone. I think Shermer's going to stay.
Yeah,
I think that's what's really going to happen. I think but I think Fangio may be asking to go personally.
But do you think? But do you think it would be, hypothetically speaking? Do you think it's? I think the Vance Joseph firing was a lot easier than the Fangio firing, because now that you have Peyton in the building. Maybe
I don't think Peyton has a say. In my opinion, I don't think.
That's fine. This is just hypothetically.
Say. Excuse me. I take that back. I think he doesn't have a final say. He has a say, but it's not a final say.
Stick his neck out for the guy. I'm just saying here, because I know that Peyton loves Fangio, and STR saying that Peyton doesn't like Fangio. That's bullshit. And you know what? And I heard a report that Jim Harbaugh might go to the Raiders. And Jim Harbaugh, who was his defensive coordinator in the 49ers? Fangio. So could you imagine if Fangio just says F you and goes to the Raiders and goes with Jim Harbaugh?
Well, doesn't he have a problem with the Harbaugh thing?
His brother.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't project that far.
I'm conspiracy theorist here.
I'm just saying I can't project that far, but I do know that Fangio, it'd be a bidding war. It'll be a bidding war for him and Donatel. It would absolutely be a bidding war.
He can go to the Chiefs.
And don't laugh. That actually could happen. So
that'd be hilarious.
That may also be in the back of John Elway's, little head, his little noggin too. These kind of things. So. But I think Fangio is the one that wants to go get out of the situation.
Yeah. You've seen it, me and you, and you've brought it up in the press conference. Yeah, I'm getting paid. I'm not afraid to get fired. I'm going to go get hired somewhere else. That's all right.
Yeah, no, he's clear about that. Yeah. So, like you said, 48 hours is going to be a big. Yeah. We'll see Monday. We'll see on Monday.
Or tomorrow too.
Monday, Tuesday, tomorrow. I think Monday and Tuesday will be more Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So that's what we're waiting for. All right. I guess we'll have a post game at some point.
We'll do.
All right.
Take care. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.